Hey, this video is for my Christian brothers out there. I'm at a hotel gym right now, and when I'm at my home gym, you see a lot of guys giving it all they got at the gym. They're lifting weights, right? And they get to that last one where they've got no more strength in them because they've done 10 or 12 already or whatever. And you see them just really pushing and struggling, even having a friend spot them so that they can get that last rep, right? They're giving it everything they got. And then I think about the Christian life, right? And our struggle against sin. And we say things all the time like, well, God knows my heart. I sin every day. I fall short every day, and things like that. And yes, it's true. But there's just a lack of a struggle in Christians today that I want to go, guys, what happened to us? How did we learn to wimp out so easily in this fight? Paul uses a physical example to teach a spiritual truth. He says in Timothy, he says, endure hardness or endure struggle as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No man that goes to war entangles himself in the affairs of this life. Entangles himself, gets mixed up, gets involved, right? You can imagine, I've never been in the military, but you don't have to imagine the young men that were drafted in World War II and Korea and Vietnam. Probably the things they were worried about the week before they got their draft notice, a good job, a new car, those kind of things, didn't matter anymore once they got their draft notice, right? It narrowed their focus in. And Paul's saying, be a good soldier like that, okay? He's saying, don't get involved in the things of this life. Stay in the war and please the one who called you to be a soldier, it goes on to say. But we are entangled in the things of this life. If you talk to Christians nowadays, they're all involved with politics. They're idolizing sports celebrities. They're listening to the music of the world, watching the movies. All those things are mixed up in their lives instead of being focused on the struggle against sin, because that's where the war is. Now, Paul gives us another example in Corinthians. And he says, isn't it true that in a race, everybody runs, but only one gets the prize? And then he goes on to say, run in such a way as to win. Paul's saying, give it everything you got. Don't wimp out in this Christian life. He's using those physical examples of being a soldier, being a race runner. He's using those as an example to say, guys, you give it all you got in those situations. Do the same in your Christian walk and in your Christian life, right? That prize that they're running for is temporary. The one that we're going for is eternal. So we should even give it more, right? The war is against sin. Our flesh, this body of sin that we're trapped in right now, is connected to this earth. It wants to do the things of this earth. It wants to sin and lead us into sin, right? The spirit that's in us comes from God. That's our connection to the heavenly realm. And even though the spirit is willing, it says the flesh is weak, right? So this is why Paul says that he disciplines his body daily, right? To make it a slave to him. What does that mean? You can only have one of two masters. Either your flesh is going to rule or your spirit's going to rule. And those who worship the Father must worship in spirit and in truth. So Paul's saying, I say no to my flesh all the time, to discipline it. So it's not making me a slave, but I'm making it my slave to do what I say, right? Let's just talk about a couple real world examples here. Let's talk about the sins of commission and the sins of omission, all right? The sins of commission, like let's say lust, you've committed lust. These are the things that we do, all right, that we shouldn't do. And you're in a store, in a checkout line, and an immodestly dressed woman is in front of you. You have a choice at that moment. And the choice is to allow your eyes to take you somewhere that your mind indulges your flesh, or to say, no, that's not God's way. I'm not going to let my flesh, I'm going to mortify the deeds of the flesh in this body, Paul says. I'm going to kill those deeds, and I'm going to crucify my flesh, and I'm going to say no to that, right? Or on your computer when something comes up and you say, no, it's not good. I'm not going to click on this and I'm not going to go there, right? Or a television show that you know you shouldn't watch, or a movie or something like that. The sins of omission are the things that we should do that we don't. Let's say, for example, lost loved ones in your family. Do you care for them? Do you want to see them saved? How about giving up 1 hour of sleep in the middle of the night? Set your alarm to get up and pray for them, right? How about when your body's hungry, just once in a while, skipping one meal, just saying no to it? And say, no, you're not going to rule. That's one of the most elementary needs of the body is food, and to be able to deny it just one meal, just to say no. And maybe it's a lunch at work, and so you take that money and you go give it to a homeless person or something like that. Let's say you're saving money for something, a vacation, something you want to buy for yourself, or something that you've wanted for a long time, and you take that money when you get that and say, you know, I really don't need that thing, whatever it is. It's just something for the flesh. And now I'm going to give that money to a great organization like Gospel for Asia or Heaven's Family that helps the poorest of the poor. Now some of you might say, before you turn off the video, this is false doctrine and what he's talking about is work salvation. I want to make it clear. That's not what I'm talking about. And in fact, if you just listen to those couple verses that I gave that Paul talks about, that's not what he's talking about either. So let me be clear. Salvation is by the grace of God through faith. It's a gift. It's not of anything we've done, or otherwise we'd be able to brag about it. It's nothing that we've done to deserve it. It's God's unmerited love to us, that he's given us the gift of salvation, that if we believe on his Son, we can be saved. But make no mistake about it, while we're judged, or while we're saved by faith, we are judged by our works. Does that sound familiar to you? Is that what your pastor's saying? Go to Revelation chapter 2, and it's the resurrected Jesus in the kingdom, right? And he's telling John that he has a message for the 7 churches. And every time he opens his mouth, the first thing in his message to the churches, to each one of them, is, I know thy works. The first thing out of his mouth is, I know your works. Some of the churches, 5 of them, he's reproving. 2 of them did good. He's saying, I know your works, and they're good. 5 of them, he's reproving. Now, speaking of things that Jesus said first out of his mouth, one of the things that he said when somebody came to him and said, Master, are few people going to be saved in the kingdom in the end? And the first, I've wondered this myself, right? You think this all the time. How many people are going to be saved out of the whole population? Or you're sitting in church and you say, how many people around here are actually going to make it into the kingdom? And it should scare us. It should put the fear of God in us to strive again. But the first words out of Jesus' mouth when the person asked him that is strive, struggle, fight, give it all you got, right? Just like we were talking about. He says, because many will seek, but will not be able to enter. That's sad. Many are going to seek it and not be able to enter. The last thing I'll say, in our struggle against sin, which is real and it's something every day, every one of us struggles in, again, while we're trapped in this body. But in Hebrews 12:4, when he's talking about Jesus and how he suffered for us, he says, in your struggle against sin, you have not resisted yet to the point of shedding blood. He's saying, look at our master for sin, for our sin. Look what he went through. You, in your struggle for sin, you haven't got there yet. We're not excused from it. We're supposed to struggle. We're supposed to strive. We're supposed to give it all we got, right? Just like Paul said. But remember, we're not supposed to make excuses. We haven't even struggled to the point of shedding blood like Jesus did. Anyway, I just want to encourage you. We all need the encouragement. Fight against sin. Mortify the deeds of the flesh. Crucify our flesh so that our spirit can reign and we can live for God, and our lives can be a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. And that's our reasonable service. All right. God bless.